We're also learning new details about the suspect. Authorities say the 29-year-old Afghan national traveled across the country from Washington state to the nation's capital before the attack. We'll have the latest on the investigation in a moment. First, I want to get to CNN's Brian Todd, who's live at the shooting scene. And Brian, you're learning more about how this attack played out.
That's right, Omar and Boris. We have important new information this afternoon on how the attack played out. We're going to get to what Janine Pirro said about that in just a second. But first, we have access here that we have not had before to the actual spot where the shooting occurred. I'm standing at the spot right now. And if you come over here with me, our photojournalist Jay McMichael and I are going to walk you over here. This area here, excuse me, ma'am. This is the bus shelter where, according to officials, at least one of the guardsmen tried to take cover at, and you can see that a plexiglass panel here has been shot out. You can see the fragmented glass up there. This panel is gone, and I'm going to walk you over here to this planter. It appears here that there is a bullet hole here that entered here and exited here of this planter. There's another planter over here. Jay's going to shoot you a close-up of that. And there's another planter here where this part has been removed. I'm going to walk you over here to show you that part of the planter that was removed. And in the meantime, you see a makeshift memorial here to the victims, people laying flowers and an American flag. Over here is a part of that panel that was actually removed. And you can see additional bullet holes here, one here, one here. And this looks like some evidence that was handled by authorities as they started to process the scene last evening. So in addition to that, we have new information from Janine Pirro. She is the U.S. Attorney General for the District of Columbia. Earlier today, she spoke to us about the sequence of gunshots. Take a listen.
A lone gunman opened fire without provocation, ambush style, armed with a .357 Smith & Wesson revolver. One guardsman is struck, goes down, and then...
And I do got a bit of footage here from the arrest. So, I mean, not the actual shot, but the arrest that was going down. So, as you see, the glass that was picked up over there. Yep, they're detaining him right here. So, pretty much, I believe this is like, I guess, moments after the shot. So, as you see, they got National Guardsmen. The glass that was broken that they cleaned up in the CNN video is still there. And there's the two National Guardmen. You can kind of see their body laid out. Okay, yeah, I probably shouldn't show you that part. But yeah, this is pretty much moments before the shot. Yeah, if you can see you could pretty much see the National Guard's bodies laid out. So yeah, this is pretty much moments before the shot. Yeah. Once again, though, all right, R.I.P. to the young lady. And like they said, the guy's in critical condition, so I guess he's okay. But all right. And if you want to have a better time seeing, I guess you can come over here on the horizontal. You can see right there. So yeah, this is pretty much the scene right when they got shot. All right, right back to CNN.
The shooter leans over and strikes the guardsman again. Another guardsman is struck several times.
And both of those guardsmen are now in critical condition at a local hospital. We have made inquiries with the hospital to learn more about the surgeries and about where they're being treated. The hospital's not gotten back to us on that. As Boris and Omar mentioned, they're identified as Sarah Beckstrom, 20 years old, Andrew Wolf, 24 years old. Those are the two guard members who were struck yesterday in this attack. Beckstrom has been on the guard since 2023, according to officials. Andrew Wolf has been in the guard since 2019. According to officials at the news conference, were sworn in yesterday. We believe that meant that they were sworn in not as new guard members, but sworn in as deputies for the U.S. Marshals, which they have to do about every month. Guys, back to you.
Brian Todd, live for us in Washington, D.C. We hope to learn a positive update on those guard members at some point soon. CNN senior national security reporter Zach Cohen joins us now. Zach, take us through what we've learned about the suspect.
Yeah, we're learning quite a lot about his background. It's a 29-year-old Afghan national who came to the United States in 2021 as part of
All right, I'll probably show that video again later, but yeah, let's hear the background of this guy, what's been let out so far.
And joins us now. Zach, take us through what we've learned about the suspect.
Yeah, we're learning quite a lot about his background. It's a 29-year-old Afghan national who came to the United States in 2021 as part of this program that was implemented by the Biden administration after the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, it seems that why he was allowed to come to the U.S. in part was because of his work with the U.S. military and CIA. He was, our understanding, he served in an elite counterterrorism unit that worked directly with U.S. intelligence and military units in Afghanistan, including active combat against Taliban forces at the time. And so there were thousands of those individuals who served in those roles that were evacuated when the Taliban started to rise to power after the U.S. left. And it appears that was the basis for his immigration into the United States. Now, of course, several layers of vetting and took place after he got here. He was only temporarily allowed to come here at first, but his background with the CIA and the intelligence community does seem to be the basis for his travel to the U.S.
So
wow,
what was that vetting?
Okay, so wow, we did everything possible. So basically, we did everything we could. This man was already under suspicion. We already did all the vetting and everything. But the reason he got the green light is because he had a history of working with the CIA. And since he had a history of working with the CIA, apparently, I mean, all right, well, you betrayed the Taliban for us, so maybe we should just let you in here. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know how we could have done it any better, but just say F it. What Trump is trying to do, just say F it. No more third world countries. We're just going to ban all of them from coming in here. It is what it is, because we did everything. We did all the vetting. The man worked with us at a certain point, and this happened. Yeah, I honestly support it now. I see where he's going with this
process actually like, because obviously there were a lot of Afghans that were coming over as part of that Operation Allies Welcome.
Yeah, by all accounts, it should have been very extensive. We know that in that initial process, he would have been vetted by the U.S. government, including the CIA. And then once he was granted temporary asylum, as he applied for permanent status, he would have gone through.
Yeah, he went through all of that identity and background check, and they found out he used to work with the CIA. Biometric vetting. I mean, they made sure that, well, if he commits a crime, I mean, we ran his, let's see, we took his biometrics, fingerprints and all that, ran it with whatever Afghan had, and they probably didn't have much. I'm not even sure if they really have that much of an investigation system over there, but who knows? Who knows? So, and they ran his biometrics over here, made sure they stored in-person interview. They sat down, talked to him. He didn't seem like no Al-Qaeda terrorist or a Taliban member. Assessment of individual risk, say, well, he used to work with us, so I mean, it's unlikely that he's going to betray us. And eligibility under U.S. law, which he passed, and it still turned out like this.
A variety of different layers of vetting. Those include identity and background checks, biometric vetting, in-person interviews, assessment of an individual risk, and eligibility under U.S. law. So that's several layers.
Extreme psyop.
It's important to remember, too, the ultimate approval and of his asylum application was granted under the Trump administration in 2025.
Important in the context of the president and allies saying that this was the policy of the previous administration to let folks in without vetting. Important to keep that in mind. Zach Cohen, thank you so much. Let's get some perspective now with Donnell Harvin. He is the former head of Homeland Security and Intelligence for Washington, D.C., also a member of the faculty at Georgetown University's Emergency and Disaster Management Program. Donnell, thank you so much for being with us. Happy Thanksgiving. We're grateful that you could share some time. I wonder what a review, as the president has said, of every migrant admitted to the U.S. under the previous administration would look like, as we've also learned that officials are going to pause any migration case related to Afghans pending further review. What does all of that entail?
That entails going through and interviewing quite possibly anywhere from 70 to nearly 100,000 people, depending on what reports you read. It's got to be very clear to the audience that, you know, these Afghan asylum seekers who've come over have committed crimes at such a low rate. I was unable to find any major crimes that were committed by these individuals. These individuals and their family members served the U.S. service members abroad, help save lives. In fact, there's many documented cases of former service people going over to rescue them even after the evacuation. What happens is that once these individuals go through that layered process of vetting and they get into the United States, they're kind of free to move around the country at their will. There's no further surveillance of them. There's no surveillance state of them. They're just like any other asylum seeker. They'll go through their process, and throughout their process, they will have interviews, and then they'll be part of a normal, non-enhanced vetting. What I believe that the administration is talking about now is some type of advanced vetting. The other thing I wanted to mention is that when you interview these people, when they go through the vetting process, you're looking behind, right? You're looking at their previous history, their ideology, who they've been associated with. That can't predict the future. And so this is the difficult part. That
I hope people wouldn't use this like just because he's an Afghanistan guy to sit there and say that, oh, it's all Arabs, it's all the Muslims. No. It's just this radical Afghan guy that, suspect worked with the CIA in Afghanistan. So, I mean, man, it's kind of hard to call this one. It's screaming psyop to me. It's screaming psyop. The only reason why is because of all the Muslim hate that's been going around. And this just looks like it's going to solidify it.
Finds himself in now.
Even if he has been traced back to the CIA, I mean, trust me. I mean, God, the guys who want to hate Muslims all day ain't hearing this. They ain't hearing that. They ain't hearing that he's Afghanistan. And that's honestly understandable.
Yeah, especially as we've seen so
That's how
many
they wanna
cases
see
of
it.
people being radicalized through a number of different means, if this in fact turns out to be terrorism. And that leads me to the next question. How is it that officials determine a motive accurately here? Because you have the administration saying that this was terrorism, but the investigators themselves have to piece that together to show evidence of it.
And shout out to my man Monty. Thank you, bro. Yes, it's the radical Islamists that shouldn't be here. Like I said, we don't hate Muslims this way. We don't. But the radicalized ones, they got to go. The ones that came here illegally, they got to go. The one that committed immigration fraud, like the Somalians in Dearborn, they got to go. Other than that, we're cool with Muslims. We just don't like the ones that's radical or here illegally or committed immigration fraud. Those are the ones we don't like. It's not about hating Muslims. It's about the upholding of the law.
Yeah, in the absence of,
well, of course, in public safety.
Of the surviving individual who's now under arrest cooperating, all reports saying he's not cooperating, they can still piece together their background, who they communicated with. Boris, you and I have been on this topic for many times. Yeah. Invariably, many of these individuals who are radicalized and mobilized to violence have some type of breadcrumb trails. We call that leakage. They may have told someone, they may have intimated this online, spoken with someone, shown some type of signs. It's always some type of signs. People just don't wake up, drive across the country with a gun and open fire on uniformed service members. So there's going to be something there they'll be able to find, even though he's
Washington. Now, he did say that he drove a while. He said he drove across country from, I believe, his home state in Washington. Let's see. The suspect, Ramamala Lankwala, is a 29-year-old Afghani national. He entered the United States in 2021 under Operation Allies Welcome, the official U.S. evacuation resettlement program for Afghanis after the fall of Kabul. And that's a legal entry route by the United States. So, yes, he was here legally. He later applied for asylum and was granted asylum in 2025, which is, crazy how you F that up, which again is a lawful immigration status under the U.S. All right. So, yeah, he was admitted. He has been improved. But let me see here. I'm gonna try to look more into his CIA connections more than just his immigration status.
Not cooperating.
I wanted to go back to something that you alluded to a moment ago, and that is the suspect's previous relationship with the U.S. government and his work in Afghanistan, including with the CIA, according to Director John Ratcliffe. How do you read that relationship?
Everything I've read that's open source available says that he served honorably and was trusted at a very high level. Like you don't get attached to a secret top secret unit with the CIA and special operations if you haven't been vetted even before the evacuation, right? So they trusted this individual, quite possibly with their life, to make sure that they.
All right, shout out to my man Monty. He says Bellingham, Washington's where he came from, which is why he got his asylum. Yeah, Washington's a sanctuary state, which is it's a very blue and liberal state. Very blue state. So, yes, Monty's right about that one. Let's see here. And he also previously worked with CIA-backed units in Afghanistan before coming to the U.S. Specifically, he reported to have served in CIA-supported Zero Unit of the Afghan National Directorate of Security, an elite paramilitary team that carried out night raids against the Taliban. I mean, damn, hold on. He was moving like that? Hold on. This ain't your average civilian. U.S. officials and media accounts say he was vetted and admitted partly because that, yeah, like I said, partly because of the work with the U.S. government entities, like qualifying him for a special immigration pathway similar, with similar priority status. So it kind of makes sense why they let him in, because like, well, you did this turn against the Taliban, not like we could leave you here. And you did work for us, but look how that worked out for us in the end. And I can see why Trump said we're just about to go ahead and put a complete ban on third world nations when it comes to immigration.
Wouldn't leak any information to adversaries, what they're doing, their movements, what they're looking for. And so something drastic has had to happen over the last 3 years
translator,
since
let
you
me
got
see.
here, Boris. This is really, really unprecedented. And in a year that the word unprecedented has been used an unprecedented amount of times, we need to just sit back and look at how bonkers this is, that someone would actually open fire on U.S. service members. I did some research before we came on. I haven't seen any incident of this in my lifetime, and I'm over 50 years old.
And Donnell Harvin, thank you so much for the perspective. Appreciate you.
All right. But all right now, guys, let's just go ahead and get into, let's see here. Let's get into our man Victor here, Victor Davis. Victor Davis, and what he says about this. I kind of agree with him on this.
Here now with reaction is senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, Victor Davis Hanson. You recently wrote a piece called Insurrection's Chic, where you make the case that the left is fomenting a kind of violence and Trump derangement syndrome writ large that is, in fact, dangerous. And here we are.
All right, so I got some information on if he was a interpreter. No, he says he was a fighter, a paramilitary operator, not just a clerk or interpreter. From what's out now, he served in the NDS-3, one of Afghanistan's CIA-backed Zero units. They were elite counterterrorism strike force, trained, funded, and directed alongside U.S. intelligence and military. With that unit, he reportedly started a security guard. He started as a security guard around 2012 and later became a team leader and GPS specialist, meaning he was directly involved in raids, targeting, and not purely a desk/administrative role. And this is coming from the New York Post. So you can go ahead and look this up on the New York Post if you want to take what they word. If you want to say it's cap, I mean, that's on you. But this is what's out right now. So yes, he was effectively a special operation type personnel for a CIA ran Afghan unit. Crazy. I mean, this is one of those moments right now. Because yeah, like Marty, sounds like he was just a translator, not some elite operator. Now he was an elite operator. He was operating elitely in there. But I mean, I guess he got out of shape because when the guy got arrested, he didn't look like your most, like, I don't know, he didn't look like an elite soldier to me. So to read this background and then to match the picture up with the guy, it's like, what?
Yeah, we saw that in the president's first term when we had a lot of retired generals who came out and said he should be removed sooner the better. We had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs said he wouldn't obey an order from the president if he thought it was dangerous, contacted his Chinese People's Liberation Army counterpart. We had a lieutenant colonel who said that the 82nd Airborne would have to fight its way and take Trump out of office. Then we saw these 6 representatives and senators basically tell 1.3 million people, you can decide when a law, what you, in your opinion as a lawyer, I suppose, think, and none of them are lawyers in most cases, what's legal and not legal, and then act accordingly to your own wishes. That was a recipe for disaster. So it's kind of a perfect storm that we're seeing, that the general deterrence that law enforcement and the judicial system have is shot. We saw that with DeCarlos Brown in Charlottesville and Lawrence Reed, 73 arrests, 14 arrests, nothing happened. So the criminal thinks nothing's going to happen to me. And then we saw the same thing, that you can disobey an order or a law depending on what you think. We had Governor Pritzker, we had Governor Newsom, we had Nancy Pelosi, we had Mayor-elect Mondami, all saying that state or local law enforcement would confront ICE, and that was anti-constitutional. So the illegal immigrant says, well, maybe there's going to be people on my side. And when you call ICE, as people have, Nazis and Gestapo or slave patrols, what did they think was going to happen? So now we have millions of people here illegally, and we have millions of criminals who have been let out prematurely, and you've got a recipe for an ungodly tragedy, and that's what's happening. I think it's going to keep happening, unfortunately, Kellyanne.
Sadly, you're probably right about that. We can expect more tragedy and violence. I think the president tonight, though, really was very firm and very resolute, Victor, in terms of what he plans to do in evaluating each and every alien who is here and should not be.
Nah, I mean, he said F it. Look, we're just gonna ban all third world countries, and you can't even blame him for coming to that conclusion. And on my honest opinion, and you're gonna think I'm crazy, but let's be real, this does sound like a psyop. Sounds like the craziest psyop. I mean, CIA connection, work for a paramilitary group. And now he comes here, and all of a sudden he comes out and shoot 2 National Guardsmen. Here's the crazy part. 2-3 days before we have the seditious 6 putting doubt in the military or in the National Guardsmen that if they're actually, acting out or they're invoking lawful orders. Because you remember what they came out with. And I said that, this is going to sow distrust not only in the military towards the upper ranks or towards their higher ups, but it's also going to sow distrust within the American people towards the National Guard. And then all of a sudden this happens. I mean, it's almost like a I told you so moment.
No, Victor, it strikes me, so many people say, gosh, Biden didn't do anything. It's just this doddering fool with no capacity.
And shout out to Monty, he says, arm the National Guard now. Hey, I agree with you on that one. Here's the thing. Trump sends 5 more troops to D.C. 500 more, not 5 more, 500 more. So yeah, 500. So yeah, I mean, you Dems are tripping about the ones that are there now. Well, it's only gotten worse.
They did plenty that has hurt this country. And I think we're seeing the fruits of that tonight. We all remember the Afghans hanging off the U.S. military plane, and they fell to their deaths, of course. But we don't hear as much about all the ones that were flown over here again and again and again, as Stephen Miller said. I have a question for you, Victor Davis Hanson. We all have Democrats in our lives, of course, family, friends, colleagues. When did that party start coddling criminals and vilifying law enforcement?
I mean, yeah. When did that start become a problem? Because actually, that becomes a problem that creates racial hatred. It's almost like the young girl that got stabbed on the bus, because this black guy who's obviously has mental problems was let out multiple times, like 14 to 16 times. This innocent young lady, got her life taken unexpectedly, gruesomely. Why? Because the justice system or the judges refuse to do their damn job. Now, and guess what that created? A whole lot of racial hatred, because some psychopath who had mental problems killed the young lady. And that's all it does. It just creates this racial tension that, I'm gonna be real with you, is hard to kind of combat, because now you got white people talk about don't sit behind them. And I'm gonna be real with you, you sit behind most black people, you're gonna be just fine. But I get it. When you spread a video of a black guy stabbing a black girl in the neck and it goes across America, yeah, that's gonna create some racial tension. And here's the thing. One thing I'm happy about is that, the black community didn't try to create no excuses for the guy, and we just stuck to the facts that this guy should have been in jail. Bro, even his own mom said he needs to stay in jail. But for some reason, the Democrat justice system that was in that state just said, F it, let him on out. Eventually he'll find help. Mm-hmm. But all right, though. Sorry. I forgot to play the next video. Let's get right into this right now, though.
How many more people are going to have to get hurt for this to stop? Stuart Kaplan is a former special FBI agent, and he joins us now. Stuart, thank you so much for joining us tonight. So you've been in the law enforcement for a long time. Do you ever remember a time in your career where the rhetoric from sitting politicians was as hot and dangerous as what we're hearing right now?
Never, Charlie. And your monologue truly heightened or elevated my blood pressure to watch. Let me just be clear, Charlie. The deployment of the National Guard was intended to suppress street crime. This actor today is not a street thug or a street criminal. This underscores our broken borders. The prior administration allowed the floodgates to be opened and to allow people to come through illegally, unchecked, unchallenged.
Yeah, but sadly, this ain't that. This is not that. He came in checked, he came in vetted, and this is what he turned out to do.
We need, as all Americans, to rally behind Donald Trump and his administration to support his efforts to deport people that are here illegally. Why, Charlie? Because our national security is front and center. This act today signifies an act of terrorism. When you target a military person in uniform, that tells us the level of threat. If you're willing to take out 2 National Guardsmen, what does that mean for the average person who's walking along the street? We are in a dangerous, fragile state right now. And I can tell you, the men and women of the FBI and Kash Patel, thank God Kash Patel is at the helm, because I know he's had many sleepless nights because he is worried about the continuation and the escalation of the attack on our national security. It does not matter if you deploy 20,000 National Guardsmen. There are people here that are laying in waiting to attack us.
Right. So we understand that this guy came in under that humanitarian program after the Biden disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Those people, that program was supposed to be extended to allies who had helped our troops in Afghanistan. Are you surprised by this, that this guy came in under that program? And are you worried about what else might be lurking in that program?
Well, that program was designed to have checks and balances and to have follow-ups with respect to after you were allowed entry into the country. And as we now know, he overstayed his permission to be here in the United States. And so the Biden administration allowed him to go unchecked and unsupervised. And we did not know where he was, who he was associating with. And of course, Charlie, he's here illegally, and he got a hold of a weapon to target 2 people today in military.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. Like I said, due to the work that he was doing in Afghanistan with the CIA, we can't sit here and pretend like this man wasn't skilled. I mean, it's wild how he came here. It's wild how he did all this, but it's also hard to predict because he did turn against his own people. He turned against the Taliban. He was fighting the Taliban alongside us. Then he comes here and shoot 2 National Guardmen. Like, what's going on? Like, all right, yeah, we need a deeper investigation into this guy.
Military uniforms. So let's speak to that. How did he get a hold of a weapon? Who facilitated? Who aided him?
How he got it, bro? I'm gonna be real with you. Due to his line of work, I'm be real with you. It's kind of easy for a guy like that to get a gun, and he's in America. So let's not even focus on how he got a gun. How the hell did he come to that?
Assisted him? Who's he associating with?
Oh, and shout out to my man Monty, says leftists equal terrorists. And I mean, yeah, we ain't talking about the liberals. We're talking about the full-on leftists.
We need to quickly suppress those individuals, neutralize those threats, and get those people out of the country.
Well, with the idea that this is going to be investigated as an act of terrorism, you would certainly hope that we would get to the bottom of all of that. Sir Kaplan, thank you so much for joining us.
All right. But all right, guys, now let's go ahead into a bit of a side quest here, and let's get into Chicago mayor blast over city's crime. Blood is on his hands. And then, of course, we're going to get into the abduction of Nigerian girls freed as Trump issues warning to kidnappers. And we're talking about the Christian ones. So shout out Trump for putting his foot down on what's going on in Nigeria. Like, shout out.
Well, President Trump sounding off on Chicago following a string of violent crimes, including the 26-year-old woman set on fire on a train last week.
Yep.
They burned this beautiful woman.
And then it happened again. This is why I was speaking on it. It happened again. Once again, some black guy that was supposed to be in jail a long effing time ago keeps getting let free. He goes out there and he lights some white girl on fire. He lights this poor white girl on fire. And I'm just sitting here